What's happening, everybody? Chris with Decoding Cocktails here. So I'm here today for something that nobody really asked for, but it's been on my mind for a while. So I have a little magnet that goes on my fridge that says, if you're reading this, put your vermouth in the fridge. And one of the most common things I find that people don't know is that vermouth needs to be refrigerated. Vermouth is 75% plus wine. It's been around for hundreds of years, and its history is kind of this in short. First, all sorts of herbs and botanicals have been used as medicine for a long time. And so if you think about things like very well, like tonic water, the quinine in that was originally used to treat malaria. But they found that it didn't taste very good, so you put it in a little bit of sugar, a little bit of water, and carbonate it. Now we have tonic water. And so bittering agents in particular have been used for medicinal purposes for a long time. And so that whole spoonful of sugar helps the medicine thing go down. Well, what if you put booze in there? And so the history of vermouth is that people began infusing various botanicals into wines. And because preservation was important, they would then fortify it, typically with a neutral brandy. So vermouth is not a big, bold wine grape. It tends to be a pretty neutral grape, and then they reach for a fairly neutral brandy. So the goal of vermouth is to kind of have wine be the vessel that's containing the flavor. But the German word for vermouth is vermouth, and vermouth means wormwood. So wormwood is this thing you've probably heard about. People talk about with absinthe. For a long time, the government was like, it's illegal, it's dangerous, and then a guy named Ted Bro, that's his name, proved that no, absinthe is safe for consumption. So the primary bittering agent in vermouth is wormwood. And wormwood is very closely also related to a spice that's sometimes used in cooking, that is tarragon. But depending on where the vermouth comes from, and a majority of the world's vermouth, at least that we're used to seeing, comes from a fairly tight region in the northwest corner of Italy and the southeast corner of France. So that kind of is a primary region. Also in the kind of the northeast corner of Spain, not too far from Barcelona, are some of the primary vermouth regions, even though you can find it all over the place. And so what we need to know about it is, while it had likely been around for a long time, one of the real heavy hitters in the vermouth space, Carpano Antica, or Carpano, as they would say in Italy, Mr. Antica was really the first person to kind of begin to commercialize this and talk about it beyond just medicinal purposes, but also for enjoyment. And so while there are many classifications of vermouth, historically we had a drier vermouth, which is sometimes thought of as a French style, and then a sweet vermouth, which is typically thought as an Italian style. Now keep in mind that these are all bittered. They're not going to be super sweet, but there are degrees of sweetness and dryness. A lot of times, even the sweet vermouth, if you've seen it before in a Manhattan, a lot of times it's actually not red wine. It is a white wine, but it, based on the spices that are put in, is often, not always, what actually ends up coloring it. More recently, blanc vermouth has come into the picture, which is really kind of thought as a switch hitter in between those. So the reason I'm here today, and we'll see what else comes up in the process of this, is one of the things that's often commonly refrained, like I said, is to keep your vermouth in the fridge. A lot of times vermouth is left sat out, and it can go bad. And I, despite talking about this all the time, and people in class all being like, oh my God, I didn't know this, I started to wonder, could I taste the difference between like oxidized, aged, and well-preserved vermouth? And so I kind of set aside some vermouth and thought to myself, hey, can I taste the difference? And so we've got some dry, some blanc, and some sweet. And so we're going to see what in the heck we get here. So this is our dry right here, kind of going my left to right, your right to left, I suppose. Nice spicing and everything like that. All right. So what I think I would tell you So for my one that I've been oxidizing and have left sat out on the counter for a while, this one certainly, to me, tastes a little more like sour grapes, I think, in a way is what I would say. So both kind of have this bittering agent. Vermouth is also tends to be a little bit higher proof because of that brandy. So wine tends to be roughly 9 to 14%. Vermouths tend to clock in right around 16 to 18%. So a little bit higher proof than your average glass of wine. Let's see what we have to see for our blanc right here. Real good. I'll tell you what, this on the rocks with some club soda, be so good. Okay, this is the one I'm most interested in. This is the, actually no, this is the freshest bottle. Yeah, so I guess the biggest thing I would say is that so far, the difference is not glaring. Now it's been, this vermouth has been aging for about 2 weeks, so it's not super aged at this point. The biggest thing I would say that I'm getting more heat and sourness in the back of my mouth. And so this is something we do need to think about, though, especially with some vermouths that are left to be gone for a while. I imagine those flavors are going to keep accelerating. So then we have our sweet over here. I should have thought about having some water on hand. Deep caramel. It's like very rich, a little bit of cinnamon in there. So good. This Foro is a total steal. It's new on the market. I love Cocchi di Torino out there. It's so awesome, but this Foro is very affordable and highly recommend you track it down. Yeah, this is probably the most noticeable difference right here, actually. This is the freshest bottle. The sweet vermouth I only opened a little while ago. And coincidentally, I will say, a lot of details for you here. But so I happen to have a different bottle of this open, and I took the very last dregs, poured that in here, and now this is a brand new fresh bottle of sweet vermouth. Here I can most tell the difference. This sweet is most pleasant. This kind of has the harshest aftertone. And none of these are unforgiving. I think to the lay person, is it going to wreck a drink? No. And so I think that's important, that you should definitely keep your vermouth in the fridge. Also, as a guy, Nicola Oleanis told me, who works for Fernet Branca recently, reminds us that a lot of times in Italy, you don't have to worry about this going bad, because when you're drinking good vermouth, it's meant to be drank on its own, on the rocks, with a little club soda. Put it in a cocktail, absolutely, but enjoy it before dinner, especially as when the Italians and the French from these regions, this would be a before dinner drink. So while you're cooking, while you're having guests over, a little spritz would be perfect. But yes, I would imagine if we kept leaving these things to oxidate, they would certainly begin to take on a harsher tone. So there you go. There's your vermouth challenge. Nothing dramatic, but beginning to show signs of oxidation. So until the next time, talk to you soon.